there you go.
I'm really
an audience. Olivia Kennedy informative speech. Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. Section 2. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. The 13th Amendment is best known for amending the abolition of slavery, but some interpretations of it have caused it to do a little bit more harm than good. Many historians have spoken on this topic, and its loopholes are literally written into the Constitution. The 13th Amendment revolutionized American society. However, let's take a deeper look into it through its context defined in the Constitution, its loopholes during Reconstruction, and the after effects of it on society today. So I've already defined the 13th Amendment as stated in the Constitution, but let's look a little bit deeper into what it does. According to the National Constitution Center, and here's the Constitution.
Wow.
All of you would like to look at it?
Oh, I would love to.
Yes. Slaves were 1/8 of the U.S. population before the U.S. Civil War. The Emancipation Proclamation, issued in January 1863, didn't free all of the slaves, which is a common misconception. The 13th Amendment was ratified on December 5th, 1865, and it was the first explicit mention of slavery in the Constitution. So that original document has no mention of slavery. However, that was the foundation that our society was built upon. It was also the first amendment that regulated the citizens and not the government. So, Section 1. That section allows a person convicted of a crime to be forced to work, making prison labor practices legal, which we'll talk about later. Section 2 allows Congress to pass laws pertaining to practices that violate the amendment. And the 13th is not frequently invoked. After the Civil War, the South entered a time period called Reconstruction. Sharecropping was a really common practice during Reconstruction. And according to the PBS documentary, Sharecropping, high interest rates and unpredictable harvest rates severely indebted tenant farmers. Oftentimes, tenants would receive no compensation for their work while landowners prospered. According to the PBS documentary, Slavery by a Different Name, 2/3 of the tenants were white, so this was a problem for both races. There was another way that the southern states utilized free labor based on the 13th Amendment. Convicted criminals were a way for the South to rebuild their broken economy. And so they used the loophole where they could imprison people and make them do work multiple times. They'd convict African Americans for attitudinal offenses such as loitering and not showing enough respect to public officials. And then when in prison, they would utilize practices like convict leasing, where white planters and industrialists could literally buy a prisoner to do work for them. And another thing was chain gangs, where prisoners would literally be chained together as they worked on the country's infrastructure. This insinuated the rise of a prison system that incarcerates Black people at 5 times the rate of white people, according to History.com. All of the aforementioned information, combined with ugly racist sentiments, has corrupted the modern criminal justice system. According to the 13th documentary directed by Ava DuVernay, the United States has 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prisoners. And that number was 2,015,300 prisoners in 2014. So I'm going to pass around this graphic, which has a couple more stats about mass incarceration in the United States. And that's all according to this documentary. So, going off of that, 1 of every 3 Black males is expected to go to jail or prison in his lifetime, compared to 1 in 17 white males. Going off of that, Daniel Wagner, a journalist at BuzzFeed, defines the prison industrial complex as a system of mass incarceration and companies that profit from it. The American Legislative Exchange Council, which is a political lobbying group whose members are politicians and corporations, has directly benefited CCA, the Corrections Corporation of America, which is a system of private correctional facilities required to keep people in jail even when crime rates were down, so they could essentially get rich off of punishment. Prisoners have been working for decades for essentially nothing. A recent example of this is in the California wildfires in Paradise, California. Prisoners were paid $1 an hour to firefight, and that's compared to actual firefighters who are getting upwards of 20. That's according to journalist Hess at CNBC. The 13th Amendment caused the abolition of slavery, but its loopholes have been very detrimental to African American communities. You've all probably heard about the 13th Amendment in your U.S. history courses, but it has had profound adverse effects on society that aren't discussed today. Except as a punishment for crimes whereof the party shall have been duly convicted may deserve a second look. Thank you.
Yay.